Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey guys, I'm so excited. Once again, I keep getting all these amazing guests on my show right now, especially when I'm at home with the coronavirus outbreak pandemic that I'm staying at home every day for another month or so. And I'm podcasting almost every morning during the week. So I start my day, officially I start my day with exercise and getting outside for a quick walk to wake up and get going for the day. Or today I ran, but really starting my day talking to amazing people as the sleep doctor, Dr. Breus. He was on my show a couple years ago. I learned a lot about the Chronotype in Ben Greenfield's coaching program that I've done, the Keon coach, and really how it correlates with what I do, nutritional therapy, and as an FDN practitioner, that we are all unique individuals. And Dr. Breus found that we all have, circadian rhythm, and we know from, what's the other book, Circadian Clock, about our organs, and everything in our body has its own circadian rhythm. Dr. Breus found out we have a chronotype, and it makes sense to me that everyone goes to bed and has a different sleep schedule. So yes, we say often in health coaching that you need to go to bed by 10 p.m. and wake up at 6 a.m. But again, it's not one size fits all approach for anything. Being keto, low carb, burning fat, how many macros you should eat, how much exercise you should do, what foods you should not eat. Everything is so unique to you. You're a bio-individual. Your genetics are different. Your lifestyle, your stressors, your routine is different than someone else. And I like what Dr. Breus has shared over the years. So his website's called thesleepdoctor.com. And I did his quiz a few years ago. I was trying to get my clients to do it too, to find out kind of what he calls in his book, the power of when you should fast, when you should do really deep thought work, when you should exercise, when you should do a high intensity workout, when you should have sex. He goes into everything. And The Power of When is a book he wrote, but he has lots of information on his website and amazing blog. And I'm on his mailing list, and I got this blog about how we should really improve our sleep with this pandemic, this stress in our world, this coronavirus. And I keep saying this every day on my social media, on my Facebook, the Low Carb Athlete page. This gift of the coronavirus is when we should be taking time to prioritize our health. Take ownership for your health. How many people are staying up really late, watching Netflix movies, eating processed crappy food, not getting a good night's sleep? You're stressed out by watching the news of how many people are dying and the spread of the virus. It's stressful out there. And really what we should be doing is finding a schedule, finding a purpose each day, finding a routine, the new routine that you have another month or so of doing. Eventually we'll see the light at the end of the tunnel and get to the other side. But right now, focus on the present moment and making each day the best that you can do. So the holistic method I always talk about, the 8 elements, are optimizing your health with these 8 elements all together. Nutrition, your exercise, your stress, your sleep, your movement, which is daylight sun exposure, and your digestion and gut health, hormone balance. And then we've got hydration, which is not drinking so much coffee, caffeine beverages, not drinking so much alcohol right now. And then really important is the happiness, gratitude, laughter, play. And all of this impacts your sleep, and your sleep impacts your immune system and how to optimize your health and build resiliency is what we should be doing right now. Everyone's told to stay home and be healthy. And I don't really think most people understand what being healthy is about. How do you optimize your health? What does health mean? So Dr. Breus will talk about his blog post that he shared and his tips. And I added to his list of what I've been doing in my blog on debbiepots.net, and I'll put all the links in the show notes. He also has a chronotype quiz. I know for sure, we talked about what we are in the podcast, but I'm an early bird. I've always been an early bird. Asking my friends, I'm the one that's yawning at 8 p.m. on schedule. And I'm the one up early going to work out at the gym, or right now it's my home gym, the POTS circuit training class or yoga class at 6 a.m. and getting out for a walk or run and getting to work at 8:30 in the morning. So finding a schedule, finding a purpose, finding a rhythm for the next month or longer is what we need to do. So sleep matters to your health. Dr. Breus is going to talk about why and how the immune system is connected to our quality of sleep. So you did a great post on that. We want to get that 6, 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep at night. But the coronavirus outbreak is really devastating our world, not just our economy. But to me, it's an indication of how poor of health our country is in. If we don't have that resiliency to defend our body, self-defense mechanisms aren't able to fight the disease, that's important. That's a sign to me that people have poor health. We've got obesity, people eating processed foods, following the food pyramid, eating vegetable oils, having glyphosate in their foods, not staying on a schedule they're eating too much and never giving their body a break to digest, and they're not sleeping right to have liver time to detoxify. All these different health habits are really important. It's a gift right now to work on optimizing those habits. So sleeping to improve your immune system is essential. This is not the time to be staying up late at night and having your kids off schedule too, because no one has to get up and go to work and commute to work unless you have essential business. Kids aren't going to school, they're homeschooled, but we need to keep kids and ourselves on a routine. So Dr. Breus will talk about how the immune system works, but I just wanted to give you a little more info before we start the show. So the immune system, he talks about on a blog about quality sleep and your immune system in the coronavirus outbreak. The immune system has 3 jobs: to identify pathogens or disease-causing germs and remove them from the body. These include viruses, parasites, bacteria, or fungi. And this is what I test as FDN practitioner. We run different labs like the GI Map, or Vibrant Wellness has a gut zoomer test. There's different ones you can do to find out if you have parasites, bacteria, or fungi. Like I used to have Blastohominus, and I still just got my retest, and I have H. pylori, and I just did Microbiome Labs new Biome FX test, and I have poor gut bacteria diversity. So really identifying these pathogens, I would suggest doing the lab testing. Also, the immune system works as spotting and neutralizing harmful substances that come from outside of the body, as the coronavirus. And also the immune system combats major changes within the body, like cancer cells. So I always think of when you learn about the immune system, it's just like our Army, Air Force, Navy SEALs. We have different lines of defense teams, and our body is similar to that. We have our self-defense, the first line of defense, and then the backup guys, and then when there's something serious going on, the Navy SEALs come in. So your immune system is activated, Dr. Breus explains very well on his website blog, when it recognizes antigens or toxins or other foreign substances to your body. This triggers a response where the immune system develops antibodies or cells specifically developed to fight the invader. Once these antibodies are produced, the immune system will keep a file and use it again if it ever runs into the same issue. This is why you typically only fight the chickenpox once in your life. So you build an antibody to that virus and hopefully not have it again. So how does sleep affect your immune system? Dr. Breus will explain it a little bit more, but we were short on time in our podcast. I want to explain a little bit more before we dive in. So he explains it that sleep is necessary for your immune system to run as efficiently as possible. You can think of your immune system as your body's football coach and sleep as its halftime break. Great analogy, right? Good coaches make adjustments at halftime after recognizing their opponents are doing effectively. Sleep plays the same role for your immune system, giving it a chance to fully assess any threats. Let's stop, pause, sleep so we can assess what's going on in the body. Do we have any threats? What are emergencies? What do we need to attend to? What do we need to look at? The immune system can then deliberately tackle any antigens, directing its cells, or the army, I say, or he says the players in his Dr. Breus's analogy, as they mount a counterattack. Let's figure out our defense mechanism. What are we going to do to counterattack this attack? Without enough sleep, your body will have a very hard time implementing the best game plan to fight back illness. Now, keep in mind the temperature regulation is vital, and when it comes to getting good night's sleep, temperature is important. So you want to avoid overheating during the night by wearing, cool pajamas, lightweight. You can get the different mattress covers that are cooler. I have the fan on in a room. I keep the window open, and just make sure, I have bamboo, cotton type of sheets. They're lightweight, but you just don't want to overheat. You probably notice you don't sleep as well. It's like when you have hot flashes. So you have to be cool when you're sleeping. So that's one thing he was saying in here. Now, sleep boosts the T cell production that we'll talk about today. One of the ways sleep helps the immune system is how it fosters what's called T cell production. Now, if you're not familiar with T cells, they're the white blood cells that affect or that play a critical part in the immune system's response to the viruses. So if you're reading about the coronavirus, you'll read a lot about the immune system and how it mounts an attack, and T cells are one of the main players. Their activation is important in how the body handles the invaders, these enemies. The T cells are attacking and in destroying virus-carrying cells. So I always think of this as first line of defense. The army and the guards come out, T cells start. A good night's sleep is important for these T cells to work their best. So think of, T cells as Dr. Breus says in this blog, they're playing football, they need to recover. And, you guys are athletes. You have to repair and recover so you can fight or perform your best the next day. Well, T cells need to get stronger and rebuild and become more resilient when we're sleeping. So Dr. Breus says one recent study showed participants who were able to get a full night of sleep reported higher levels of T cell activation compared to participants who did not get ample sleep. Sleep deprivation will stop the T cells from responding efficiently and makes it more difficult for the body to fight back against illnesses. Sleep improves the immune system's response to threats. So a really important point of the show today is to get your sleep. Get that 8-9 hours of sleep at night. Whatever your chronotype is, I was suggesting people go to bed by 10, get up at 6, that kind of basic one-size-fits-all approach for sleep, but everyone's different. Some people go to bed, as Dr. Breus says, at midnight. I like to go to bed 8 o'clock and write my gratitude journal and set my intentions for the next day. I read my book at least 3 pages and put my spa music on, have the lights dim, and I maybe do a facial mask. Sundays, we do masks on our face and just trying to, get that sleep hygiene routine down. It's really important because sleep improves the immune system's response to threats. So if you want to focus this month and longer, create these new habits that you will keep going with and build your resiliency. He also explains by completing the 4 sleep cycles, you're supporting the release and production of cytokine. And you'll hear a lot about cytokine right now as they are saying the coronavirus is creating this cytokine storm. And Dr. Walls explained that, even though we had bad connection the other day in our podcast with her. So cytokines are a multifaceted protein that helps the immune system quickly respond to antigens. Cytokines have 2 priorities. They promote cell-to-cell communication, and they also direct cells to head towards infections and counteract the issue. So these proteins, cytokines, are essentially the quarterback of your immune system, taking the orders and how to best fight back against a virus and direct the immune systems to follow the same game plan. A lack of sleep makes this tougher, as your body relies on a full night of rest to replenish the cells and proteins that it needs to fight diseases. Sleep loss alters the cytokine production and makes that process harder for your body to fight against viruses. So you can help me spread this message to your network, to your family, to your friends. Sleep is essential. We need to focus on reducing our chronic stressors right now, and external stressors and internal hidden stressors I talk about every show, and focus on these lifestyle habits with nutrition, lighter loads of exercise. Don't try to run 10 miles every day. Getting your sleep, making it a priority to help you heal and rebuild and strengthen your immune system. We need to get outside in the morning and get that exposure to sunrise, to daylight. We need to get fresh air and clean the house out and breathe in clean air. We need to work on that. And Dr. Breus will share more tips. And I want to make sure we're working on our digestion and our gut health right now, as your immune system is 80% in your gut. So if you're eating inflammatory foods, you're decreasing the strength of your immune system because you're damaging your gut. So another reason and motivation to eat real nutrient-dense whole foods that balance your blood sugar, avoiding the blood sugar roller coaster. We want to avoid drinking too much coffee. That's stimulating adrenaline, getting excess cortisol, which if you're already stressed out and high charged person, you don't want to add fuel to the fire by drinking more coffee, more caffeine. More is not better. Not drinking alcohol every night. I wrote in my blog, I'll share with you, that if you're drinking alcohol every night, I would wonder why, and maybe suggest limiting to 2 drinks, 2 nights a week. Don't drink every night. I think that's an addiction. That's leading to chaos in your body as well as causing other imbalances. So hydration of clean filtered water throughout the day is really essential right now. And then, of course, gratitude journal, playing, laughing, reaching out to your friends and your family, doing Zoom video calls or FaceTime, getting that face-to-face interaction is really important. So I just wanted to chat a little bit because Dr. Breus, we had a short amount of time because he is a busy man. He's been everywhere on media and podcasts. So I'm grateful for his time today. Go to the show notes to find all the links and find out what your chronotype is. And we'll put the links to some free progressive relaxation and breathing exercises that Dr. Breus had added in his blog. So we'll add those to the show notes. So enjoy the show. Hopefully you can share this with your loved ones, your friends and family to help spread this self-care with the holistic method mission that I have. So I appreciate you and listening today, and hopefully we can help the world get healthier. All right, let's bring him on. Hey everyone, I'm so excited to bring the sleep doctor, someone I follow all the time and learn so much from, Dr. Breus. And I appreciate you coming on my show today to talk about chronic stress and the importance of sleep to really optimize our health during this crazy time in our world.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to be here. And, you know, all the people out there who are trying to take care of themselves, especially during the insanity that is COVID-19, you know, that affects sleep in a lot of different ways, right? You're stressed out, you get in bed at night and all of a sudden, guess what? Everybody's thinking and looking and trying to figure out what's going to happen next, and they're not really sleeping. That's part of the problem.
Yeah, well, people are up watching the news late at night and on social media, Facebook. You got to set some rules up for yourself. And as we were just saying before I push start, is that we're home, as I record this April 7th, we have another month and
Easily.
It could be longer, and I'm planning on going longer, but it's just really what I'm trying to get out to all of our listeners and everyone I know is that this is the time of any time to take care of your health. And we're told to stay at home and be healthy, but no one really explains what healthy even means.
Right. Like, what is that? How does that work? Absolutely. So I completely agree with you. This is actually the perfect time. It's almost like somebody pushed the pause button, right?
Yeah.
And was like, okay, I'm going to now give you a whole bunch of time at home with family, and you're going to have to figure that out. So number one, it's just that whole family dynamic, like, to be fair, we're not all used to being in the house with each other all day long, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you work that whole thing out? And then everybody's trying to be healthy. And so what does that mean? Does that mean that I'm running a marathon in my backyard? There's some guy in England who actually did this,
No.
literally in a 25-foot space, ran back and forth, clocked the whole thing until he ran 26.2 miles. I mean, like, it's creative, it's interesting, but like, what can we start to think about and what can we do now to help our health? Sleep turns out to be a really important factor. And I'm fortunate enough to have the insight into the research to be able to give some people some good ideas and some good tips. So if you're cool with it, I thought I'd launch into a couple of the things that people can start doing now. But before, I wanted to give a little bit of a primer on just how does sleep affect immune function and the immune system, if that's okay by you.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to just share that info. That's great.
You bet. So one of the things we know is that sleep turns out to have a primary function within the immune system. And here's why. There are these things inside our body called killer T cells. Now, you may not remember back from high school biology, but maybe you've heard about things like this. Killer T cells are the white blood cells that show up at the point of infection or that attack a virus. So these turn out to be incredibly, incredibly important cells. Well, guess what? They're manufactured when you sleep. So the more you sleep, the higher that T cell production has a tendency to occur. Not 100% while you sleep, but a large portion of them are. So sleeping well and having good amount of sleep increases that production of these killer T cells, which are kind of like the army, guys and gals that are beating up on the virus and hopefully, making sure that it doesn't attack you. That's not the only thing that sleep does, though. The other thing is your entire circadian rhythm. If you keep a very, very consistent sleep schedule and your body knows when to sleep and knows when to wake, it doesn't have to worry about that function, and it can place its ideas and its eyes on like better health. So it's very, very interesting. Once the whole body is working, everything becomes much more efficient. So your immune function becomes more efficient the more consistent your sleep schedule. Now that would be like, who would make that correlation, right? Like, nobody would think, oh, if I go to bed on time and I wake up on time, that my immune function is going to be better. But it turns out that it really is. And there's one other study I wanted to bring to light to everybody. It's kind of fascinating. 2017, I think it was, in San Francisco, they did a really interesting study where they took people who had a good night's sleep, they gave them the flu shot, and then they exposed them to the flu, right? Then they took people who had a bad night's sleep, gave them the flu shot, and exposed them to the flu. Guess what happened? The people who had slept well, almost nobody got the flu. The people who didn't sleep well, almost 75% of them did. So think about it like this. Once we get to the point of having a vaccine, if you take that vaccine and you didn't get a good night's sleep the night before, it could be almost worthless.
Wow. Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So things to start thinking about as we're preparing, as we're trying to keep ourselves safe, we really need to think through this idea of what is sleep and what is better sleep. So with that in mind, I've got a few tips that I thought I'd roll through.
Yeah.
Just practical things that people can be able to do right away in their home, doesn't cost any money, that kind of thing. So step number one is a consistent sleep schedule. So what do I mean by that? More so your wake up time than your going to bed time. I actually don't even care if you stay up late and watch, Netflix until 2:00 in the morning type of thing, but you got to get up at the same time every day, including the weekends. I would tell you that you should get up at your normal wake up time that you would normally for work, even though you're no longer commuting. If you're 6:30 is your wake up time, you need to get up, you need to get and showered, you need to get dressed, or maybe use what was that commute time for exercise. Maybe it's just simple stretching. Maybe just walk out in your backyard, take off your shoes and put your feet on the earth. Just do the things that you know that you need to do for you during that time frame that you normally would have been commuting, because that's going to be an important factor, right? But waking up at that same time every day is critical, critical, critical. Another thing that a lot of people were noticing is they're napping during the day, right? So they stay up and they watch Netflix or Hulu or whatever it is until whatever time. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, I got to get up at 6:30 because I got a 7:30 meeting. And then, oh my gosh, it's 12:30. I don't have anything until 3. I guess I'll nap, right? Bad idea. Right? Here's why, because as soon as you nap, you lower your sleep drive, which makes it harder to fall asleep at night. Sleep drive is something that builds up throughout the day. So by taking a nap, you reduce that, and it makes it very difficult to sleep at night, much less if you don't have this consistent schedule, it's going to throw things off. So biggest thing that you can do is wake up at the same time and not take any naps. There's a whole lot more things that we can do here, though. One of the things we need to look at is alcohol and caffeine.
Yes.
So this is a biggie because we're at home, right? And it's like, we're not driving anywhere. And there's a really big difference between going to sleep and passing out, okay? So
you think.
We don't want the passing out side of things. We want the going to sleep side of things. So I've created a formula that should work well for everybody. It turns out it takes the average human approximately 1 hour to digest one alcoholic beverage. So 1 glass of wine, drink 1 glass of water, wait 1 hour before bed. 2 glasses of wine, drink 2 glasses of water, wait 2 hours before bed. Once you kind of hit 3 glasses of wine, you may want to take a look at why you're drinking 3 glasses of wine every night.
Exactly what I say.
That might kind of be some people's upper level limit, but just to be fair, if you did get to 3 glasses of wine, you'd drink 3 glasses of water, you'd wait 3 hours. After that, all bets are probably off because the amount of alcohol is actually going to have a dramatic effect on your sleep at that point. But think about it like that. Same holds true with caffeine. A lot of people, they're saying, well, I'm just going to make a pot of coffee. Well, I can't let it waste. And then all of a sudden they're just drinking coffee all day long, right? If that's not a habit that you normally had, don't do that, okay? Because here's what happens. Caffeine is a stimulant. It raises our overall levels of anxiety. Well, now is a time that everybody's got a lot of anxiety right now, right? So if you're super caffeinated and then you're lying down in bed because you've been drinking caffeine all day and you've got all these corona statistics that are flying into your head, guess what? You ain't going to be able to fall asleep so easily, right? And so again, being smart about that. And that brings up another point, which is 90 minutes before bed, give yourself what I call a media diet, right?
For sure.
It's enough with the data, right? Like you don't have to watch news and see how many people died in Italy, or wherever. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's terrible what's happening in Italy, but at the end of the day, getting that information right before bed actually has a major effect. There was a really interesting study looking at, of all things, optimism. And what it discovered is if you have positive, optimistic thoughts before bed, you fall asleep more quickly, you get into deeper sleep faster, and you have more positive dreams. I mean, if that's not a recipe for doing something good before bed, I don't know what is. So, okay, Michael, what would we do? My favorite thing for people to do is what I call a gratitude list.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just, and especially during times like this, where sometimes there's not a whole lot of things that we might be grateful for. People might have financial struggles. People might have emotional struggles, physical struggles, and things like that. It's hard to remember sometimes what to be grateful for, but now is the time to do that, because that will allow, again, these positive feelings, these positive thoughts can be very helpful for people. Another one that people might not have thought about that's going to be important is washing your sheets. People don't really think about that. And if you don't really, you kind of have a schedule type of thing, you should be washing your sheets in hot water. Almost, if there's a sanitize function, I would recommend doing that, because remember, stuff is going to get on your clothes. It's going to be in your air ducts and systems like that. do yourself a favor, wash your sheets at minimum once a week. If you can, I would pick days like Mondays and Thursdays, let's say, and you strip the beds and you wash those sheets, and you strip the beds and you wash those sheets. You'll be surprised at how important something like that is. And when we're talking about things like air circulation and cleanliness and things like that, hey, if you're home, now's a great time to do some spring cleaning, right? Change out your air filters in your house. Look at the ductwork and things like that. See if there's some cleaning that can be done there. Open your windows, okay? You might not be able to go outside, but that doesn't mean you can't get some fresh air, right? Open your windows once a day, walk around, open up every single window in the house, leave them open for 15 or 20 minutes, and then walk around again and close them up. Just get that fresh air circulating if you can, right? Because that's going to be healthy for you. That's going to be good for you. The other thing is getting direct sunlight. And exercise, right? And so this is big, and I know this is big in your community for sure, is exercise is definitely important. Keep a consistent exercise schedule. I get it, social distancing, and you want to do the right thing, and I'm a big supporter of that, but if that means that you need to run, at a weird time at night, I have my next door neighbor, she runs at 5 o'clock in the morning when there's nobody out, and she wears a mask, and because she knows if she doesn't run every day, she's going to go cuckoo. Right? Because that's her thing, right? And so I said, let's figure out how to make sure that you can do that. So I think we can be creative. I think there's a lot of things that we can do here that can be quite helpful. And I don't want people to be fearful, but at the same time, I want people to take this seriously. So at the end of the day, yes, you should be social distancing. Yes, you should be washing your hands all the time. For some, unfortunately, we have to do that. And just be smart, right? Like if you don't have to go out, don't. Be aware, and also be aware that although you might be safe and healthy, you could be a carrier and you could be bumping into somebody that is not safe and healthy, and that bring that into your home with children or seniors or things like that. So those are my general recommendations for people right now during the COVID situation.
Yeah, I love those. And I was looking over that yesterday, and I was writing a blog about what I've been doing. And it is similar, awesome. Writing gratitude journal at night. And, are you having your athletic greens?
I am having my athletic greens.
I know, I have that bottle. I drink those every day too. And so I've been doing my athletic greens and doing my gratitude journal at night and,
awesome.
Getting outside. And what I've told people is, getting up and walking at sunrise when the sun comes up, I keep hearing these people not showering or not getting dressed each day. I'm like, get up and go outside, move. And it's so important, I think, to set your circadian rhythm, right? Getting outside, that daylight exposure, that will help you at nighttime with your sleep schedule. But talk about how chronic stress, because everyone's so stressed out. And I think a lot of people might not be choosing the right food. So they're getting stressors and their environmental stressors. And then we've got this constant stress of overdosing on social media and news. How does stress impact our quality of deep sleep, restorative sleep?
So you're 100% correct in identifying one of the biggest factors. So let's back it up for a second. Let's talk about something called insomnia, right? Mm-hmm. So the inability to either fall asleep or stay asleep. 75% of that has to do with stress, or what I say is between your ears, right? And so it's your head. And that's the thing now that's really clicking off for people, because again, there's so many different types of information and data that's coming in, and that's leveling up our stress. So number one, identify if you do have stress. So how would you know if you're stressed out? Because a lot of people say, well, I'm not stressed. What are you talking about, right? Number one, if you're defensive, if somebody's telling you that you're stressed and you're defensive about it, you're probably stressed.
Yeah.
Just to be fair, that's issue number one. But how do we identify stress in ourselves? So sometimes what we'll notice is we'll notice tension, right? Through our neck and through our shoulder area. So if you find yourself, kind of doing one of these and gosh, my neck is kind of been stiff a lot lately, you're literally physically carrying that stress right there, right? If you're somebody who, and I know you've got a very active listener group here, who's active and you haven't had the opportunity to be active, that actually makes it feel like stress in your muscles. Like, I don't know if you've experienced this before, but like I'm a runner. And if I don't run a certain number of times in a week, like I'm like this. I'm like, when am I going to go for a run? When am I going to go for a run? You know, because I have to get that energy out. So notice when you're tense, when you're talking quickly, when you're raise the volume of your voice, when you feel agitated or annoyed at things. Those are all signs of stress. Okay, we figured it out, Michael. We know how to identify stress. What do we do about it, right? A couple of different things that I really like doing. So one of the things I've done, and we'll send a link out to everybody, or there'll be one in the show notes. I like progressive muscle relaxation. It's arguably my favorite technique. And so I created an audio that everybody can go download, get the audio for free. I'm not, this isn't a sales thing. This is a please enjoy thing, but it walks you through this idea. And this is fairly old. Believe it or not, Jacobsonian muscle relaxation came out in the 1800s.
Wow.
I know, isn't that crazy?
I know.
So what you do is you tense and relax muscles, and you start basically at the top of your head and move all the way down to your feet, or start from your feet and move all the way up to your head. So I'll walk you through the process, but I got to tell you something, it's incredibly relaxing, and people just super chill out, and it allows them to go to sleep. Also, it's distracting, right? So remember, we are happy to have distractions when we're falling asleep, especially now, right? Because again, all these thoughts are flooding in, because when else would we have time to think, right? I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I'm going from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting. Like all of a sudden I look up, it's 3:00 in the afternoon. I'm like, I haven't even gone for a run yet. It's like, holy crap, what happened to my day? That's, it's happening. It's stressful. It's things like that. So understanding that and getting this progressive muscle relaxation, that can be a real help and a tool that people can use. There are also great meditation relaxation apps out there. I personally work with Calm. I like them. They have a really wonderful breathing app that's really cool, but you don't have to have the app. I'll teach everybody what the breathing is right now. So the Navy SEALs, oddly enough, came up with this breathing technique. So I looked into the history of it, because I'm kind of a history geek and I like to figure those things out anyway. And it turns out that snipers, when they're about to shoot, if their heart rate is too fast, it can actually change the trajectory of the bullet just by their heartbeat. Wow. So they have to lower their heartbeat below 60, otherwise, so it doesn't have an effect. They developed a technique called 4-7-8 breathing. Okay, so everybody can do it with me. Actually, is because you breathe in for a count of 4. So 1, 3, 4. Hold for a count of 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out for a count of 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe in, and you can see what it is, right? So it's 4 to breathe in, 7 to hold, 8 to breathe out. Michael, why those numbers, and what's going on there? Why less breathing in and more breathing out? So breathing in are big, big breaths, right? So you're actually consuming a lot of oxygen by having a deep breath in. The hold is important because we want that oxygen to get distributed, but the breathing out is where the magic happens, because what happens is many people are shallow breathers. They breathe in a little, they breathe out a little. But what happens is there's a lot of excess carbon dioxide that literally just sits inside your lungs. By breathing out this count of 8, you push all that CO2 out. And then when you breathe in that big, deep breath, you reoxygenate those what are called areoles inside your lungs. And that helps open up and get that oxygen distributed better. So that's really something that we want to be looking at. Quite frankly, I do 4-7-8 breathing anytime I feel a level of stress. It just, boom, drops my heart rate. You don't have to do it just before bed. You could do it just before a run. You could do it before a presentation, before a Zoom meeting. Those kind of things would be good to, again, allow yourself to kind of level down. That also brings up a slightly different point, which is we're all going from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting. Instead of doing it on the hour, my recommendation is schedule your meetings for like 9:10 or 10:10 and use that 10 minutes before to walk outside, get some fresh air, do 5 jumping jacks, do 5 push-ups, do something to activate your body, because that's going to be important for you to be able to do.
I say reset and reboot, or you're recalibrating yourself.
There you go. I love that. You're hitting the reboot button.
Yeah. And I tell people, I've coaching clients that said, breakfast doesn't mean eat, it means go outside. Lunch doesn't mean eat, it means go outside. Eat when you're hungry in between, and go outside is dinner time. Go for another walk around the block. And it's funny. Have you heard of this bear scavenger hunt?
No, what's that all about?
We have it in our neighborhood, and I think I don't know where else who has it, but I was like, why are people have bears in their windows? So it gives you entertainment when you're going for your walks 3 times a day. People have bears in their windows. So
that's cute.
But the importance of getting outside, I think, is important to reset. And, I have my little rebounder right here beside my desk. I bounce on it, or I told a client to put it outside. And at lunchtime, go outside. And if you have to be available for your work, at least you're close in. But
well, one of the things that I've noticed is several of my clients during this period of time have actually taken up intermittent fasting.
Yes.
And that's worked out extremely well for them because, number one, intermittent fasting slows the amount of just food that you put into your system in many cases. Also, you can concentrate on just putting really good food into your body. Here's the biggest issue that we're seeing these days is 2-week shelf-stable food. It's all processed crap. Every single bit of it. It's all in bags and boxes, right? And so we know those aren't whole foods. We know those are full of preservatives. And that's what people ran out to buy because we're all worried that we're all going to be stuck. And now everybody's eating it. So guess what's happening, everyone? We're estimating people are gaining anywhere from 8 to 10 pounds. Wow. And here's what happens. We were already an obese society. I mean, come on, 100 million people overweight, 80 million people obese. And that's literally half the country that's in a bad spot here. This situation could make that worse, right? So one of the things that I think is important is because you have such an active community, Debbie, is having those people send out the word to all of their friends and be like, hey, now is not the time to be passive. Now is the time to be active. And I know your advice has been wonderful for all of your listeners, telling them to share that advice. I'm here to tell you, Debbie knows what she's talking about. Like, get that information out to your friends. Like, this is exactly the type of emotional, motivational, and educational support that we all need right now in order to better ourselves. I agree with you. I think we can all come out of this like as new people. Like, I mean, we're all going to be different, that's for sure. And the world, I think, is going to be quite different for all of us. But I think now is absolutely the time to focus on self-care and self-help. And you know what? It's a great time for sleep because, quite frankly, everybody's so damn bored. They're going to hopefully be able to get some rest anyway.
People keep saying that they're bored and, what are you doing watching TV? I'm like, I'm not bored. I'm
not bored at all.
Researching all the time. And I'm trying to create an updated manual, the holistic method manual on self-care and how people can, do all the stuff we talk about, do it now. And so you get down these rabbit holes researching, like yesterday, about sleep and stress and all that. And then just what you're talking about, intermittent fasting, because I've always done it and I always promote intermittent fasting. And I interviewed Dr. Walls the other day and she said, this is not the time to do a 24-hour or longer fast because there's too much stress. And I read people are doing fasting, like, no, I wouldn't suggest prolonged fasting because your body's already under stress.
To be clear, and thank you for bringing up that point, I'm not talking about the 24-hour, 48-hour, 72-hour water fasts, things like that. Absolutely a terrible idea. But looking at the general principles around intermittent fasting to slow how much food you're eating or to at least have a time zone or what I call a feeding zone can be helpful to avoid some of those extra pounds. But I agree with you there. Also, I think another important thing to remind people is people who have eating disorders should not intermittent fast, period, end of story. It's a bad idea. You're not in a good spot to do something like that.
And I've talked about that before, but I think, a lot of athletes listed, they're the type A overachievers that overdo everything. And a lot of them are over exercising and probably in that camp of eating disorders, because that's why you're choosing another addiction as exercise. So we've talked about that, but that is a concern always.
Yeah. And I think you bring up an excellent point, which is overtraining. Yeah. Right. There's a lot of people. I mean, everybody's going nuts because they can't do their normal train. So what are they doing? They're doing, 6 20-minute sessions a day type of thing. Like, relax, everybody. Like, just chill out. Like, you don't, because one of the very early signs of overtraining is insomnia. So, if you start to see you're having a difficult time sleeping and you're exercising, 4 or 5 times a day, relax, slow down, give your body a break. You might be surprised.
Yeah, I know. When I was doing Ironmans, I would have the worst night's sleep after a race. I could not sleep at all. Yeah. So that's a good point.
Absolutely.
So our last little bit here, just want you to kind of give us a summary of the chronotype, because I know you taught us in my Ben Greenfield's program, Keon Coaching, and different stuff we've learned over the years from, you're a bear or dolphin. And we used to go over all that with Barack and talk about the chronotypes, because we've also heard that you should go to bed 10 p.m., 6 p.m. because you have liver detoxification. And I was looking at, in Chinese medicine, they have the clock of what happens at what hour. But your research says, everybody is different, as I always agree with. Talk about the different chronotypes, and we can send people to figure out their type.
Absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up. I think it's very relevant right now. And so, so what Debbie was mentioning is this idea of chronotypes. Now, you might not have heard the term chronotype, but you've probably heard of the concept. If anybody's ever called you an early bird or a night owl, those are chronotypes. So my contribution to the literature was I discovered that there aren't 3 chronotypes, there's actually 4. So we used to think it was early bird, people in the middle, and night owl. But what I discovered was there's a particular type of insomnia that falls right into this whole thing. And believe it or not, these are genetic. A lot of people don't realize that. They say, well, I'm gonna make myself a morning person. Good luck. Okay. It doesn't work that way. It's painful. If you're a night owl and you're trying to be a morning person, that sucks. Okay. Trust me on this one, because I've tried it. I'm a night person. And the only thing I hate more than mornings are morning people. They're just so chipper all the time. Like, it makes me nuts, right? So understanding what you are and then following that schedule can be incredibly invigorating and, believe it or not, helpful for your circadian rhythm as well as your immune function. So if you go to chronoquiz.com, it's free. You can go in there and you can it's a quiz that takes maybe 2 minutes, and you'll discover, am I a morning person, in the middle, night person, or insomniac? And then it will give you a whole schedule of information and help teach you what you should do and when you should do it. Believe it or not, there are certain times that certain people should take their medications and supplements versus other times. So as an example, if you're a morning person, right, then you have a tendency to want to eat food in the morning. And so then you would take something that you might take your supplements or medications that are fat soluble because you're having a breakfast in the morning. But if you're like me and you're a night owl, the only thing I can choke down is one of these, green drink. I couldn't eat food right now, no matter what. But if I had to have food with my medication, then I might be looking at taking my medication at a different time based again on my chronotype. To be clear, talk with your doctor before you change medication timing and things like that. But at the end of the day, understanding how your hormones function, especially now, is going to have a huge advantage for you. In the book, I teach people the best time to have sex, eat a cheeseburger, ask their boss for a raise, focus, email, cold call. I mean, it's pretty amazing when you start to look at the hormonal differences based on your chronotype, what you can discover.
And I think that would correlate with fasting too, when to eat and exercising as well. I know we learned that in Ben's program, but.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad you brought that up. So my intermittent fasting, so my feeding time doesn't start until 4:00 in the afternoon because I'm a night owl. And I eat from 4 till about maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And then I go to bed around 12:31, and then I get up around 7:30. Right? Because I'm a night owl. That's how my schedule works. It's, by the way, what's cool about this whole idea is it's perfect to do right now because you don't have to go to work. Right? I mean, generally speaking, I mean, a lot of people out there might, but you know what I'm saying? You can actually shift your schedule to exactly your chronotype and run the experiment right now. You'll be shocked at how much more efficient you are, how much more productive you are. I mean, it's just better.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed that just somewhat almost 3 weeks we've been in this stay-at-home state. And I've always been go to bed early person my whole life. Even as a kid, I'd be at sleepovers, be the person hanging out with the mom, waiting for my friend to wake up. Because if he sleep till 11, I'd be like, that chipper morning person, let's get up and go. So it's funny, but now I don't have an alarm. I don't get up at 4:30 and go to the gym at 5:30 a.m. And so now I already found my circadian rhythm is shifted an hour, kind of probably what's natural for me, not to get up at 4:30, but waking up at 6 feels good.
Absolutely.
And that's just kind of my schedule's already shifted, going to bed 8 o'clock, I read and I have my little sleep hygiene routine, and then, I love that. And then wake up naturally, and it's still, 5:45, 5:30 is kind of early, but it is amazing. As you just said, 3 weeks, I found my natural rhythm of what's ideal for my body. But I'm not ever going to be going to bed at midnight. I'm the person that yawns at 8 o'clock at night. I got to go to bed.
Right. Well, so you're a lion and I'm a wolf, right?
Yes.
So you're the early person and I'm the late person, right? And so we're dramatically different. It's very funny. So a lot of people ask me this from a dating perspective. Because I always said to myself, why doesn't Match.com ask about chronotypes, right? Wouldn't that be better to know at the beginning of a relationship than at the end of a relationship?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because by the time you're both in the same bed together, it's kind of like, well, we've already established the fact that we want to be in the same bed together, but you wake up at 4:30 and I don't wake up until 7, we're going to have an issue here.
No, we always joke about my husband and I when we had our first date. I was training for Ironman. I just biked 120 miles that day and did this really long workout.
Wow.
And I was yawning and he thought I was so rude.
Right, because you were
he
bored
wasn't
with
going
him,
to go
but
out
you were
with
just
me
exhausted.
again. Yeah. And I'm like, but now when we first were dating or married, he'd go to bed later and sleep in later, but now we're on the same schedule. But I can see how it's a problem because I know someone that they go to bed earlier and their husband stays up really late and, they get totally off. So it causes trouble, I think. So you do kind of have to marry someone that's the same sleep type, that chronotype.
Yeah, well, I can tell you this, I've saved more marriages as a sleep specialist than I think I ever would have as a marital therapist, like dealing with that controversy, because there's a lot of it, that's for sure.
That's true.
But, at the end of the day, the good news is that, we all have the opportunity to improve our sleep. I think knowing and understanding your chronotype can absolutely positively help you in ways that you would never even imagine. I'm a big fan of Ben Greenfield. As a matter of fact, I've got his new book here. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Debbie.
Yeah, it's my weightlifting tool.
Yeah,
you can do some bicep curls with it.
This is like a tome. I could kill somebody with this thing.
I know.
But I got to tell you something. This is a great tool. If you're bored at home, dude, this is amazing. It's a perfect time to go through something like this. But he's got a great section on sleep. He talks a lot about the chronotypes and things like that in there, which I think is important. So folks out there, and if you're a Kion coach like Debbie, again, you should be talking with your folks about sleep and how does it work and how you can get better sleep during these times.
Yeah. So thank you so much for fitting your day in with us. I know it's been
crazy. I know.
Well needed to share this information though. I just was like, I got to get this out there. So sorry about the confusion, but I think it's so important for people to take this time, think of it as a gift of the virus. Absolutely. To take care of yourself. And I talk about, sleep and stress and nutrition, but, exercising, that Goldilocks effect of everything, not too much, not too little, find the right amount that works for you as an individual. And really taking care of yourself. If you want to build your immune system, build your resiliency, you got to start with, what you're eating, when you're eating, how you're sleeping, and all of this stuff. Not thinking it's vacation time, eating a bunch of crap and staying up till midnight watching Netflix.
Drinking alcohol, having a big party. No. Bad idea.
Yeah. So thank you so much. We'll put everything in the show notes, including the link to get the breathing exercises and the chronotype quiz. I'll put the link into that too. So thank you so much for your amazing information and your blog post. Everyone needs to read too. Some great info to catch up on.
Well, thank you so much, Debbie, for having me on your show. It's been a great honor for me. I certainly appreciate it. And thanks to everybody for listening. This is Dr. Michael Breus, the Sleep Doctor. I'm wishing you sweet dreams and making it through this COVID-19 with better rest.
Thank you. Amen.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us to continue to grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.